Alabama running back Joshua Jacobs was a name that a lot of people had never really heard about until the national championship. Since then, however, his draft stock has gone through the roof, and he is now going to be a first or early second round draft pick. Joshua Jacobs could easily be a top player from this draft class if a coach can learn to use him the right way. Every time Joshua Jacobs gets the ball, he wants to show just how special of a player he is. Although some players may be afraid to get tackled hard, Joshua Jacobs will literally truck a defender just to gain a few extra yards on each play. Because he is a powerful halfback, Nick Saban often used him as the ball carrier in the Wildcat formation last season. Although Joshua Jacobs ran the Wildcat all season, we really got to see this in full effect against Clemson in the national championship. On third downs and fourth downs, we would see Jacobs convert time after time by just following his blockers while on Wildcat. Following his blockers is something Joshua Jacobs is good at. One thing that worries me about Joshua Jacobs is his running to the outside too much. Although we see many great inside runs by Jacobs, where he finds the hole in the offensive line and explodes through it, we also see plays where he runs to the outside. This creates some fantastic runs, and this creates some not so good runs. Because Alabama had a good offensive line, it usually wasn't much of a problem for Jacobs. But in the NFL, it might be if he goes to a team with no Pro Bowlers on the offensive line. We saw Trent Richardson do this too much, and it ultimately killed him when he got traded to the Colts, whose offensive line at the time was rather abysmal. But we also see players like Saquon Barkley kill it by running to the outside. Saquon Barkley loses yards more than any other running back in the league, but even behind that terrible New York Giants line, he had many runs that gained 20 plus yards. However, Joshua Jacobs doesn't have the speed Saquon has, so it might become more of an issue. Luckily, as I've already stated, he is still great at running inside in between his blockers. Joshua Jacobs, to be rather blunt, is very similar to those two players. In fact, if you combine Trent Richardson and Saquon Barkley into one player, you would have Joshua Jacobs. Whether you think it's a bad thing because Trent Richardson became a bust, or a good thing because Saquon Barkley has become a monster, you can't deny that Joshua Jacobs is a great prospect. Trent Richardson nowadays is basically a power back, running for short yards to guarantee the first down. While on the other side of the spectrum, Saquon Barkley is getting 100-yard games just by being an extra receiver for Eli Manning. That is Joshua Jacobs. While not quite as elusive as Saquon, Joshua Jacobs still has a lot of elusiveness to his game, and similar to Trent Richardson, Joshua Jacobs can power his way for a first down or even a touchdown. Not to mention he is similar to Frank Gore when it comes to his blocking abilities. So how exactly should a coach use Joshua Jacobs? Similar to his time in Alabama, I believe Joshua Jacobs would excel as a running back who shares touches with another really good running back. The secret to Joshua Jacobs isn't just his running ability, but his receiving and blocking abilities as well. During his time in Alabama, some of their best offensive plays would be when Joshua Jacobs blocks and creates a running lane for another running back, usually Damian Harris. He would run to the same side as the running back, block a linebacker or edge rusher, and allow the Crimson Tide offense to gain a few extra yards. Teams that run the pro set formation could be perfect for Joshua Jacobs. Having two running backs in the backfield, one beside each quarterback, would allow either Jacobs to run the ball or it would allow Jacobs to set up a big block for the other running back. Even though the pro set would be perfect for Jacobs, he's versatile and could run basically any formation, whether it's the Wildcat, Pistol, or even the sadly forgotten wishbone tactic that was used back in the 1960s. From just watching film on Joshua Jacobs, you can tell that he is a very solid pass catcher. Over a fourth of his total yards in 2018 came from receiving some passes. He doesn't drop the ball very often and can become a huge help to quarterbacks that are either under pressure or just need someone to throw a check down pass to. And if you really want to keep Jacobs versatile, you can just do what Nick Saban did and use him to return kickoffs. In other words, coaches in the NFL need to watch how Nick Saban used Jacobs and emulate it. We all know that Nick Saban is a great coach, but he used Joshua Jacobs perfectly. Get Jacobs behind a great offensive line, run the pro set and wildcat formations with him, pair him with another great running back, and see him become a monster for your team. The versatility of Jacobs is so great, it's hard to even call him a running back. With the game evolving and Josh Jacobs' ability to run, catch, and block extremely well, he could become the start of a new position in the NFL, the running back and fullback hybrid. Some of you may be thinking, a fullback worth a first round pick? That's just ridiculous. But I'll be the first to tell you that type of thinking is way too one-dimensional for football in 2019. In order to succeed in the league, you have to be like Bill Belichick. Think outside the box. Don't make the players form to your scheme, but find the best attributes of each player and turn them into studs that will elevate your entire roster. Joshua Jacobs would be a fullback that would get 10 to 20 carries a game, 5 to 10 receptions a game, and be very helpful as a blocker. Joshua Jacobs is the definition of an all-purpose back. You could use him as a fullback to to block for the other running back, catch short passes, or do a fullback dive when you're on the 1-yard line to guarantee the touchdown. Here are some teams that I would like to see Jacobs on. First is the Carolina Panthers, a power run team where Jacobs could bring in his blocking abilities for Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey, while also adding another running back who can catch the ball, which could be really helpful considering the Panthers don't have the best receivers. I wonder if the Panthers could bring back the wishbone with the help of Jacobs. Probably wouldn't happen, but hey, I'd like to see it. The other team I'd like to see him get drafted to are the Buffalo Bills. LeSean McCoy is on the decline and Joshua Jacobs would be the perfect guy to help Josh Allen become a franchise QB while becoming the Bills' franchise running back when LeSean McCoy leaves. We all know that the Bills were run heavy in 2018, but Brian Daboll knows how to use formations and motions to create mismatches, making Josh Jacobs the perfect player for him. No matter what team he gets drafted to, Joshua Jacobs will be able to help out anywhere he goes. He will work in a duo or be just fine as the lone running back in the backfield. Bring some versatility to your offense and draft Joshua Jacobs.